one of the overarching themes is that, according to your reporting, everyone around the president, senior advisors, family members, every single one of them questions his intelligence and fitness for office.
Let me put a marker in the sand here. 100% of the people around him. I will tell you the one description that everyone gave, everyone has in common. They all say he is like a child.
Good morning and welcome to AM Joy and welcome to 2018. Well, while you were busy having a happy new year, clinking your champagne glasses and making resolutions, Donald Trump was, to borrow a favorite of his three-letter words, sad. Because after the ball dropped, so did a brand new book, here it is, that spills all the tea about what his staff and family really think about his mental capacity, his emotional stability, and his fitness to perform his job as president. The book Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House is the culmination of writer Michael Wolff's 18 months of fly-on-the-wall access to Trump's campaign and his White House. Now, Trump cannot stop obsessing over the book. Last night, he put it like this. Michael Wolff is a total loser who made up stories in order to sell this really boring and untruthful book. He used sloppy Steve Bannon, who cried when he got fired and begged for his job. Now sloppy Steve has been dumped like a dog by almost everyone. Too bad, exclamation point. Wolff continues to stand by every word in the book and says that he has recordings and notes to back up his reporting. But this morning, Trump's rage tweeting continued as he declared himself a stable genius. The first casualty of the book bombshell is the relationship between Trump and his former chief strategist, Breitbart's Steve Bannon, who's quoted extensively in the book, including calling Donald Trump Jr.'s Trump Tower meeting with a Russian lawyer, quote, treasonous. Bannon's loose lips earned him an attack from Trump, including that new nickname, Sloppy Steve, and led him to being very publicly dropped by his longtime billionaire benefactor, Rebecca Mercer. And all of this comes at a time when we're learning lots of new details about the Russia investigation. We're going to have more on that later. But first, I'm just sipping on all this hot book tea with my panel. Café. Here with me now are Jen Kearns, contributor for the Washington Examiner, Tim O'Brien, MSNBC political contributor and author of Trump Nation, The Art of Being the Donald, Democratic political consultant Tara Dowdell, and Aswin Subsang, politics reporter for the Daily Beast. Thank you all for being here. I'm trying to decide which of the two Trump whisperers I'm going to go to first. I'm going to go ladies first, Tara, because you know Donald Trump from The Apprentice, your time that you spent on The Apprentice. The things that are said in this book about his intelligence, about his attention span, about him being childlike, were those things true of him at the time that you first got to know him in The Apprentice?
There was a side of Donald Trump that absolutely fit all of those characteristics. But there was also a side of Donald Trump at that time that was much more disciplined, much more focused, particularly around things that he cared about. So The Apprentice was something that he cared about. He put a lot of time, effort, and energy and focus on The Apprentice. At moments, I've said this before, people look at me like I'm crazy when I say it. He could be charming. Everything I'm seeing right now is that the low attention span, the erratic, all of those negative things, that side has completely taken over. And it is very clear. And so this book is not breaking really any new ground. It's just taking all of those things and putting them in one place. But everything that is said in this book is things that people like I have said over the course of his campaign.
Sure.
Other people who know him have said the same thing. And now all of a sudden it's getting focused. And I think the reason is because it's coming from people who are his supporters.
Yeah.
And that is the key distinction.
Yeah, and people who ostensibly wanted him to be president and worked toward getting him there. We're going to get to that in a minute. But I want to come to you on this, Tim, because, of course, you are a biographer of Donald Trump. I want to read a little excerpt from this book, Fire and Fury, which people are lining up literally like it's an iPhone to get it. So a lot of people who Donald Trump does not want to know about these things are going to know about them if they haven't heard them from you guys. This is one excerpt. It says here, on Trump's nightly routine. It says if he was not having his 6:30 dinner with Steve Bannon, then more to his liking, he was in bed by that time with a cheeseburger, watching his 3 screens and making phone calls. The phone was his true contact point to the world, to a small group of friends who charted the rising and falling levels of agitation through the evening and then compared notes with one another. And then, of course, leaked all that information out. Is that the way Donald Trump has operated, meaning that he needs to constantly call and get reinforcement from friends and eating in bed?
Not only that he constantly needs to call and get reinforcement from friends, but that he actually lives a very isolated existence. He doesn't like to socialize. He's never been very visible on the charity circuit. He doesn't go to black tie events in Manhattan. His ideal evening is to sit with a cheeseburger in front of the TV watching sports. You know, Liz Smith, who covered him as a gossip columnist in the 80s and 90s, once said to me, honey, you know, the only thing you need to know about Donald Trump is that he's a 7-year-old grown old. And there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And Jen, you have people on the staff. Now, these are people who are working for Donald Trump, who ostensibly wanted him to be president and are still working toward a successful presidency in their minds for him. And this is what they're saying about him. Insulting Donald Trump's intelligence, this is from the book, was both the thing you could not do and the thing drawing there but for the grace of God guffaws across the senior staff that everybody was guilty of. For Steve Mnuchin and Reince Priebus, he was an idiot. For Gary Cohn, he was dumb as expletive. For H.R. McMaster, he was a dope. The list went on. What do you make of the fact that the people inside the administration are constantly referring to Donald Trump as an unintelligent dope and an idiot?
Well, look, I think that the biggest premise of this book that I think is false is that somehow, like, this chaos in the West Wing is somehow a crime. We know of people that are CEOs, entrepreneurs, inventors, people like Donald Trump. They love chaos, and they love a difference of opinion, diversity of opinion, even in their own boardroom.
Diversity of opinion about their intelligence? I mean, have you ever heard of an organization, or would you allow in an organization you were running somebody who is considered dumb, a dope, an idiot, and chaos to reign? Do you think that would be a sound organization?
Well, look, I think the American people knew exactly what they were doing.
Did they know they were getting somebody who was a dope, an idiot, dumb?
Well, look, I think one of the criticisms of this book so far has been the sourcing of Mr. Wolf. Even in his own introduction, he clearly states that there were differing opinions, there were differing sources, and he even said in his introduction that he believed that some sources were not factual. They were not telling the truth.
No,
yes, he did. It's in writing, and it's also in Donald Trump's demand letter, the cease and desist letter that they sent out earlier this week.
But you know, anybody who's covered Trump for a long time knows that everything in this book rings true. You can go back and forth on Michael Wolff's sourcings and methods, but the Donald Trump who is portrayed in this book is the Donald Trump the press has been covering for the last year, and he's the Donald Trump who New Yorkers have known for 3 decades.
And let me go to Aswin, because you cover the White House as well. And I'll ask you, first of all, do you think, do the things that are said about Donald Trump in this book ring true to your reporting of this president?
Oh, very much so. A lot of it. I mean, it is barely even an open secret that people closest to Donald Trump, including his top political advisors and senior officials in his administration, think he's an idiot. Like that's not even an opinion. It's just a fact that they believe that and say that all the time when they have the benefit of not having him in the room. And that's something that has been confirmed report after report after report over the first year of the Trump presidency at the Daily Beast and at myriad other publications. And what Michael Wolff is doing right now, as salacious and at times compelling his book may be, is just basically all he's doing is confirming what is already out there, just in his own words.
But look, a lot of this is name calling, and again, I go back to Wolf's sources.
No, it's their opinion of him. No, I mean, you have to react to the fact that this is a reporter who covers the White House.
Yep.
This is Tara, who knows Donald Trump, and this is Tim O'Brien, who is a biographer of Donald Trump, are all telling you that the people around Donald Trump, to a person, believe him to be unintelligent and an idiot, and in some cases believe him to be impaired. So do you know Donald Trump personally?
I do.
You do know, well, okay, so
I don't find him to be an idiot. I don't find him to be
alone in
mentally
this
impaired.
You're the only one.
No, I'm
You're
actually
alone.
not. Look, this is their opinion. Everyone's entitled to their First Amendment opinion, whether they're a member of the cabinet or the senior staff in the White House. Here's what I do know. The American people did not elect a traditional Republican or a traditional candidate. They intentionally sent Donald Trump to Washington to blow up the proverbial boxes and to drain the swamp. And we're suggesting here through this book by Michael Wolff that somehow chaos in the West Wing is some unknown thing. Look at the Clinton years. We had the Monica Lewinsky scandal. We had Travelgate.
This is not just typical chaos.
I don't think so.
Hold on a
I don't think
second.
we've seen it before.
Let's No, we have not seen anything like this before. I think it's fair to say that we have never seen anything like this before. I'm going to let you guys in before I go ahead and follow up. Go ahead, Terry. You were going to say something.
So I wanted to just make a point. So one of the big issues for Trump is that he's surrounded by a bunch of mercenaries. So people would say, if he's all of these negative things, why are these people working for him?
Good
because
question.
They're all mercenaries. These are people who are advancing their own agenda. These are people who have been leaking from day one, from the campaign all the way into the White House. They've been leaking every single day. All of the stuff that we know, all of these leaks are coming from inside the White House.
Right.
These are not coming from outside sources. And so when you're surrounded by mercenaries, I know I worked in the governor's office, it's different from the presidency, but those type of people want someone they can take advantage of.
Right.
That's the whole point.
And you've had more than 2 dozen people already leave. Go ahead, Aswin. Go ahead.
And for as much as the president and the White House like to bash what they would erroneously call the fake news media, what the press has had to say about Donald Trump, whether in analysis, opinion, or reporting, as rough as some of it has been, it is nothing compared to what his own advisors and his own senior officials say about him when he's not in the room. And that is a fact. And again, your guest there might have a different opinion about it, but there aren't that many people who would agree with her on that point, both publicly and privately, except for save perhaps the President of the United States himself, who has been ranting on the internet this morning about how genius he is and how perfectly okay his head is. And for the President of the United States, like I am not exaggerating when I say I honestly cannot think of a single person in this country who cares about media feuds or media gossip more than this president. And that has been true for a long time before he entered the White House. And honestly, this book is tailor-made for his specific obsessions.
And, you know, Tim, you as a biographer, I want to get to that, because part of the reason it seems that Michael Wolff was able to ingratiate himself, he does come from the Hollywood Reporter. Donald Trump is obsessed with Hollywood and being liked. And
Michael
being
criticized
admired.
the mainstream media for being overly critical of Trump early on. I think he's set himself up as a Trump-friendly voice, and Trump gave him access.
Yeah, but I want to ask you this, because and just those of you, and you say you know him as well, because this is one of the more disturbing things that we've heard about Donald Trump from the people around him. And it says this is from the Hollywood Reporter write-up about the book that Michael Wolff did. It said it used to be inside of 30 minutes he'd repeat word for word and expression for expression the same 3 stories. Now it was within 10 minutes. Indeed, many of his tweets were the product of his repetitions. He just couldn't stop saying something. And then this is another excerpt. At Mar-a-Lago just before the new year, a heavily made-up Trump failed to recognize a succession of old friends. This is suggesting not just eccentricity, but impairment.
Yeah, you know, we can go, the impairment thing, I think, awaits more evidence. I think there's no question that he's profoundly narcissistic and that he's wildly insecure. And he has spent his whole life sort of creating an alternate reality for himself. One of the reasons he was an effective candidate and he's a good salesman is that he focuses on a few things and he beats on those points relentlessly. The dark side of that same phenomenon is that he's telling himself these same myths about himself. And anytime anyone pokes into certain subjects, his intellect, his mental stability, his wealth, his business success, how attractive he is to women, he can go ballistic.
Yeah.
And he's
doing it on Twitter this morning. I mean, any concerns? I mean, if he is, you've seen his speeches. He meanders. His mind meanders all over the place. He can't stay on topic. If he's repeating things over and over and over again, used to be 30 minutes, now it's 10. Couldn't recognize old friends. No concern on your part that there might be impairment here. The American people did not, and first of all, the majority of the American people voted for the other candidate. So even the minority who voted for Donald Trump, I'm sure did not vote for somebody who is impaired.
Well, look,
want somebody who is impaired.
This suggestion that Donald Trump didn't recognize some old friends at a New Year's party, this is a man who's met thousands upon thousands of people, have rallied in front of tens of thousands of people.
Well, they're not all his friends.
Well, but look, in a busy room, you're greeting people. You know how this works.
So you don't have any concern. I mean, Donald Trump, in the tweeting this morning, this sort of series of tweets about how he has to, like, I'm so smart, I'm so intelligent, none of that concerns you?
Look, I think the tweeting is a sideshow. It has been since
the campaign.
the
behavior.
Look, I think these allegations that he's somehow unfit to be president, he's mentally unstable.
That 100% of the people who work for him believe that.
Not 100%. And again,
Michael
some
Wolff
of those
said
sources.
every single person that works for him believes that he is unfit to do
Michael
his job.
Wolff also said in the written introduction to the book that he had opposing sources. He felt some sources were not completely truthful with him.
He did not
and
say
at
that.
the end, he chose which ones to go with. Yes,
he did not say that.
He
But
did.
you know, then Trump can do what every other president has done: submit himself to a physician's exam and make the results of the exam public. Donald Trump.
Why should he have to do that? Look,
Because
people are questioning his stability.
I would caution every
That's
psychiatrist.
transparency and accountability.
Absolutely.
I would caution every
Absolutely.
psychiatrist on this who's
There are 27
accusing him
of them
being
who've already-
mentally unfit. The
there's
American
27 have gone on
Psychiatry
record.
Association
I don't
warns
think
people against diagnosing people they have not
Look, 27 is
examined.
done. Very quickly, Aswell, before we go, quickly.
I don't think it benefits anybody here who doesn't have a medical degree to play armchair physician or psychiatrist. Having said that, I just want to make the simple point with a thought experiment that can you imagine what the American right would be doing to Barack Obama right now if there were even a hint of this amount of focus on President Obama's mental health back during the Obama administration? I mean, it's insane. We don't even have to pretend how the other side would be
and there
reacting
wasn't,
if
and
they were
during the
handed
campaign,
this kind of thing.
this
Let's not
president
That
be
very
obtuse
thing
about
was
that.
done to Hillary Clinton during the campaign. There was all of this speculation about
her health.
And the right did that.
And there was
the end.
rightfully
They
so
still
do.
speculation about her health.
not
She passed
rightfully
out
so
at the
when
9/11 memorial.
Then why isn't it proper right now to
Right.
question whether or not
Exactly.
the
Right.
president of the United States is stable?
Exactly.
Just
All right, we
because
have to
you
go.
don't like what
we
he
have to
says
go.
doesn't
We
mean
have to go.
he's mentally unfit.
Well, we have to go. Jenny Kearns and Tim O'Brien will be back. Tara Dadell, Aswin Suba saying thank you guys very much. Appreciate you. Happy New Year. And up
Thank you.
next, the latest on Jefferson Sessions' attempt to smear James Comey and more on Trump's morning tweet storm.
I'm smart, not like everybody says. Like dumb, I'm smart, and I want respect.